You're watching First Alert 7 News at 9 on the CW and live on YouTube with Lauren Munt and weather with Tom Tiefertiller.
So I was confused. I didn't know what was happening.
That's Roland Almanza. He's a 7th grader at Nimitz Middle School who spoke to First Alert 7 after his school was put on lockdown. In just a few minutes, he'll walk us through the day from his perspective. But before we share that story, I want to inform you about a developing situation happening in Andrews. The First Alert 7 team has learned that a number of Andrews officers were involved in a shooting earlier this evening. Take a look at this video from the scene. According to Andrews law enforcement, officers were attempting to serve a felony arrest warrant for indecency with a child. During this process, an officer-involved shooting took place. 2 deputies from the Andrews Sheriff's Office and 1 officer from the Andrews Fire Marshals were transported to Permian Regional Medical Center in Andrews with injuries. One of the deputies was airlifted to another hospital for further treatment. The Andrews Police Department and Sheriff's Office did not say whether or not an arrest had been made, but be sure to stick with First Alert 7 on air and online as we continue to follow this case. And earlier today, ECISD received reports that there was a possible gun on campus or even a shooter. But multiple law enforcement agencies responded, and their investigation found that there was no evidence that there was a weapon or a shooter on campus. A 7th grade student has been charged with a felony for making a false statement about a shooter. And even though there is a resolution this evening, parents, students, and staff spent the afternoon confused and scared. One student walked us through what happened from his perspective.
It was a regular day. We went to lunch, and then after we ate, we all went down this hallway to go outside.
Roland Almanza was with his friends heading outside for a break after lunch when his assistant principal stopped him and his classmates in the hall.
And then a bunch of kids started running back into the cafeteria, so I was confused. I didn't know what was happening. And then after that happened, a cop came.
As you can see, Odessa Police, ECISD Police, Ector County Sheriffs, and Texas DPS all present.
And then some kid yelled gun, and so we all ran. So we ran into the cafeteria, we ran into a classroom, and teachers were there. They bring us in the classroom, and then we all hid, turned the lights off.
OPD Police Chief Mike Gerke also confirmed to First Alert 7 that OPD got reports of a student that was running out of the school yelling someone had a gun.
It was pretty scary. It was very unusual, and it was very unexpected. I didn't expect it to happen at all. It seemed like a normal day, but then out of nowhere, that unexpected happened.
While police investigated, students and parents waited.
The conversation was mainly about just making sure that she knows I'm okay, and I just told her what happened, just how I explained how we're in the cafeteria and it was crazy. And of course she was nervous, but she knew that I was okay.
Now, ECISD did confirm that police found no evidence of a weapon or a shooter on campus, and parents were allowed to pick up their children one at a time.
I was a little bit nervous just waiting in the school. We never know what could happen, but knowing that my mom was coming to get me and she picked me up, I feel way better.
The district said in a statement, quote, "Police are investigating this as a hoax intended to cause panic at the school." The district also thanked parents for being patient throughout the afternoon. ECISD also confirmed to First Alert 7 that 2 other students were arrested today after they threatened to bring guns to school. One was a senior at the STEM Academy and the other a 6th grader at Bonham Middle School. None of these 3 incidents are related to each other. Turning across Texas now, Border Patrol has conducted an investigation into its response to the Robb Elementary mass shooting that happened in Uvalde, Texas. Mike Jimenez from our CBS affiliate in San Antonio reports.
This new report details how the 188 Border Patrol agents responded to the Robb Elementary tragedy and improvements that can be made for future incidents. The investigation concluded none of the Custom and Border Protection personnel at the scene were found to have violated any rule, regulation, or law, and no agent was referred to disciplinary action. Their investigation identified several key issues: lack of clear federal authority addressing CBP personnel intervening or engaging in a state level or local level emergency, and a lack of command and control with other agencies. It also mentions gaps in current training, which doesn't address scenarios where breaching tactics were required. In a separate investigation with agency policy on national use of force, a review board determined that agents acted within CBP policy for use of force and did not find any misconduct. The report also entails several recommendations on how leadership will address issues on how agents interact with local and state law enforcement during critical responses, reevaluating training standards, and improving operational methods to better address the command and control issues.
The West Texas community is taking action in order to be better prepared in a disaster situation with an emergency preparedness fair. Classes include CPR training, first aid, self-defense, stop the bleed, and civilian response to active shooter training. Booths at the fair will include information on everything from food storage preparation to taking care of pets in an emergency situation. And even if you have attended this fair in the past, this year they will have new things to learn and topics that you might have missed in previous years.
There's no way that you're able to see everything in the time that we have there. And so go and actually sit down for one of the courses, the classes, or visit somebody in a booth that you haven't thought about and ask questions.
Everyone in the community is invited to attend and bring a friend along. The event is going on tomorrow from 10 to 2 at 5401 North JBS Parkway here in Odessa. We're going to take a pause now and talk your weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Tom Tieferteller. Tom?
Well, it was a hot one today across West Texas as temperatures got back into the mid to upper 90s. Now we are watching a tropical storm in the eastern Pacific. That is going to bring the possibility of more clouds to our forecast. Already seeing those move over Brewster and Presidio County and into the Trans-Pecos and moving off to the north and northeast. So we're going to see an increase in this here over the next 24 hours or so. And that's going to help us out on temperatures a little bit, because here's what we saw today across the area. Temperatures up into the upper 90s out there to low triple digits for Fort Stockton, Monahans, Pecos, and down in the lower elevations of Big Bend National Park. Hottest temperature I could find was about 106 down at Rio Grande Village. So again, temperatures were hot today, but they're not going to be quite as hot tomorrow. Again, that added cloud cover is going to be moving across the area, so we are going to be looking at pretty quieter conditions and not as hot coming up for both Saturday into Sunday.
Thank you, Tom. Now that you've got your weekend weather, let's talk about some weekend plans. Hispanic Heritage Month starts this weekend on September 15th, and the Hispanic Cultural Center of Midland, they're getting a bit of a head start to the festivities. Tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. there will be a parade, and the parade floats will start on La Mesa and Florida Street. They'll make their way around town. Then at 6 o'clock, the festivities begin at Three Generations Arena with Mexican rodeo and music.
Permian Basin has a lot of great events going on this weekend. This is the only event where we will have an actual charro team conducting an actual charreada as you would see in Mexico. And we also have the presence of the Escolta de Guerra out of Juarez University, which is going to be posting the colors and doing their presentation.
Organizers expect that 1,000 people at the parade will attend and the festivities tomorrow. This is the second time the Hispanic Cultural Center of Odessa has put on festivities for Hispanic Heritage Month. And the Howard County Fair kicked off today. It's open all weekend long. Grounds open at noon Saturday and on Sunday. On Saturday, the fair closes at midnight, but the Lone Star concert with Brandon Ray, that'll start at 10 o'clock. The fair will have other rodeo and music performances throughout the day, plus fair foods and rides. But one new thing at the fair this year is the first ever barbecue showdown. You can taste chicken, pork, and brisket that's been cooked by multiple teams, including the Big Spring High School barbecue team. Every year, Trinity School of Midland takes on a special initiative known as the BIGG Project, standing for the Big Ideas for the Greater Good. This project is done in honor of Amy Bell, a Trinity student who passed away but left behind a legacy of compassion and service. The school continues to carry forward her spirit of giving through the annual event.
Our kids know when they go home they're going to have a meal tonight. They know this weekend they're going to have food on the table or food in the pantry. Not every family is fortunate, and we're trying to put into their heart the idea that they are fortunate. What can we give and provide to others? And the thought is, yeah, those kids are going to feel good for getting a box of cereal, but don't you feel good as well for what you've done? This year's big project is especially timely as it overlaps with Hunger Action Month.
Trinity students have partnered with the West Texas Food Bank to address food insecurity in their community with a cereal drive.
I think what was really great about today was being able to witness the joy and the excitement and truly put that connection together, that they had this huge project and they all came together and they truly are making a large impact.
On Monday, they collected 238 boxes. Today, they tallied over 1,500 for members in the community. And the First Alert 7 Peanut Butter Drive is on September 26th. This is also in partnership with Hunger Action Month and the West Texas Food Bank. Help us fill a West Texas Food Bank truck with jars of peanut butter. You can drop off a donation at the First Alert 7 studio in the Music City Mall anytime between now and September 26th. Talking some education news now, Odessa and Midland College have seen a surge in enrollments over the past few years. Odessa College has been seeing enrollment growth in the last 11 fall 2024 semesters, and they're currently in their 12th year of enrollment growth. The administration believes the reason for this growth is due to the job market in the Permian Basin, and specifically because of their connections with UTPB.
Students know that they can come to us, get training, either get a credential quickly, or they can get a 2-year degree and then get right out into the workforce.
Yesterday, Midland College announced that they had more than a 15% increase for the 2024 fall semester, and their preliminary enrollment of 6,059 is the highest enrollment it has been since 2011. Meldrum says Odessa College will know the final number of enrollments by October. And let's talk some local sports now, because Friday night football is happening right now. The First Alert 7 team is scattered all across the Permian Basin at some of those games. Let's take a quick look at those scores. Right now, we've got Midland Legacy there at halftime with Lake Travis. Lake Travis beating them 21-20. Jumping over to 4A, Greenwood 15, Andrews 14 in the third quarter. Ira Ann beating Crane 40-8 in the fourth quarter. Stanton Forsan, they're tied going into their third quarter. That'll be a great game to watch. Again, all of these games, we've got First Alert teams scattered around, keeping an eye on them. And tune in tonight, The Blitz on First Alert 7 for highlights from all of these games and more. Plus, stick around on YouTube for The Blitz extended version, where our sports team takes an in-depth look at all of those games. Coming up, today, August 13th, marks the 30th anniversary of the passing of the Violence Against Women Act. We break down the latest action from the Biden administration, coming up next. Today, August 13th, marks the 30th anniversary of passing the Violence Against Women Act. The White House is highlighting the country's progress in fighting domestic violence, and our Washington correspondent Brendan Cullerton breaks down the latest action from the Biden administration.
President Joe Biden is celebrating the law he wrote back when he was a senator in the 90s. Now, 30 years later, the White House says there needs to be more attention on the threats women face online. The White House says the 1994 Violence Against Women Act not only gave domestic violence victims more resources, it also put the issue in the public spotlight.
This was something that was hidden in the shadows. This was an issue that society as a whole was ignoring.
The Biden administration says between 1993 and 2022, annual domestic violence rates dropped by 67%, but the rate is still too high.
Any instance of violence against anyone is too high. So of course, there's always going to be more work to do.
President Biden is announcing new actions on the anniversary of the law that would provide additional funds to combat sexual violence and address sexual problems on the internet.
And it's combating more online violence, more online harassment and sexual harassment online, deep fake imagery, AI-generated videos that we're seeing online.
The White House says words online that cause pain and shame should be considered violence, and the administration is committed to protecting women online.
This is the next frontier of sexual violence, and what we're announcing today is a package of proposals and funding that will meet those evolving needs.
Some of the funding approaches the administration is pushing will need approval from Congress. In Washington, I'm Brendan Cullerton.
Now, from the First Alert 7 Weather Center, here's Chief Meteorologist Tom Tiefertiller.
Well, we are going to see some changes coming up in the weekend forecast. It was a hot one today across the area. That ridge of high pressure continues to control our weather right across parts of West Texas, and this centers on up into the plains, and we are going to be looking at this starting to move off to the north and northeast. Just has to wait on a couple of things. We have to get the tropical depression Francine out of the way, and that's being held up by high pressure across eastern Canada. This trough of low pressure will move across to the northeast and kind of drag that ridge to the north and northeast. So we're going to be looking at a little bit of a change coming up with that weather pattern. So it won't be quite as hot coming up for the weekend and especially into next week. Another thing we're looking at is all this high cloudiness moving in. There's a tropical storm Ileana down in the Baja of California in the eastern Pacific. That is going to stream a lot of moisture, mid to high level moisture across the area, but it's not going to translate into a lot of rain, as we're going to see the bulk of that moisture really move up the Baja of California and into southern portions of California and Arizona. Not a lot going on across the state, as we are seeing pretty quiet conditions out there, as most of the rain and clouds is associated with Tropical Depression Francine across portions of Arkansas into Tennessee. We're just going to be looking at the high clouds continuing to move across, and it was hot across the state today as we saw temperatures into the mid to upper 90s in many locations out there. Some of the hottest stuff in the state was found right along the Rio Grande. Up in Amarillo too, temperatures were up to 100 degrees this afternoon. Now, taking a look at the futurecast, again, the high cloudiness really starts to take over overnight tonight, continuing into the morning hours, so we should be covered up quite a bit for most of your Saturday. That's going to help us out on temperatures a little bit, and we can't rule out an isolated shower, maybe a rumble of thunder across the mountain areas primarily, it looks like, coming up for tomorrow afternoon, but as you can see, it is going to be very isolated across the area, and we're going to see these high clouds start to thin out a little bit. A few clouds hanging on for your Sunday, but any chances of rain look to be further off to the east of the area. May see extreme eastern Permian Basin with a light shower or two coming up on Sunday. But again, everything looks very isolated. So for the rest of tonight, lower 70s on the way across the area, as we'll see mostly cloudy skies and partly to mostly cloudy skies in the forecast tomorrow, holding temperatures down a couple of degrees less than what we saw today across the area. Our First Alert 7 10-day forecast, it does show that we are going to be looking at those temperatures again, starting a downward trend, especially on Sunday. And then we'll see an isolated shower thunderstorm chance come back in the forecast next week, as it looks like another cool front could be arriving late next week and cool things off the following weekend. So a few changes look to be coming our way next few days.
Up next here at 9, travelers are bracing for worldwide impacts as Boeing employees start to strike. We bring you the latest in your travel news. That's next here at 9. It's been one crisis after another at Boeing, and now the company's first strike since 2008, affecting thousands of workers on the West Coast. Chris Van Cleve is following the story from Phoenix, Arizona.
Strike! 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 Boeing workers erupted in cheers when they heard the union had voted to strike. The vote passed by 96%. Putting 33,000 West Coast machinists on the picket line.
This is about respect, this is about addressing the past, and this is about fighting for our future.
The walkout is expected to bring manufacturing to a halt in the Seattle area, the heart of Boeing's operations.
We deserve more. We are doing the job that is required of us, and we need to be compensated fairly for doing so.
The union rejected the company's offer for a 25% wage increase over 4 years, a $3,000 lump sum payment, enhanced retirement plans, lower employee health care costs, plus 12 weeks of paid parental leave.
The longer this drags on, it also delays deliveries of airplanes that are already late to major customers like United and Southwest, and that disrupts their ability to run their business.
Boeing says it's disappointed, but working to restore trust with the union, and it's ready to get back to negotiations.
We're just looking forward to bring back some kind of consideration from our CEOs, recognize who's building these planes out here on the floor.
Machinists are pushing for a 40% pay increase, saying, unlike company executives, their wages have stagnated. For Boeing, the strike follows a series of crises with both airplanes and spacecraft. Its stock has plummeted, and the walkout could cost the company billions. Chris Van Cleve, CBS News, Phoenix.
The White House says it's in contact with Boeing and the union and encouraging them to negotiate in good faith. Still ahead, Air Force Staff Sergeant Galen is back home in Midland, and we're sharing the heartwarming reunion between the soldier and his son. That's next. Stories about soldiers coming home, they always make me cry. And this one, posted by Midland ISD, is no different. Midland Legacy High School sophomore received a big surprise when his family and LHS administrators introduced a surprise special guest, and it was his dad. Isn't that just an incredible story? Thanks for joining us tonight for First Alert News at 9 in the CW. We've got more news coming up tonight at 10.